Hi lads and lasses, and welcome to Darts Coaching with Dynamite Dave. Today's video is the first one in. We're going to have a little bit of a few reviews over the next few days. We're going to have a bit of a draw at the end of the month, which we have every month, but as you know we've had some technical difficulties, so unfortunately not everybody's been able to get into the raffle. I'm hoping to have that sorted by hopefully in a couple of weeks, maybe a little bit sooner than that, but there'll be no more raffles. I'm not allowed to call them raffles anymore, unfortunately, because that's where the problem lies, is in the wording. So I think I've took some advice, and there's some other different ways that we can do it which will keep us absolutely bang on legal and what have you, and hopefully out of any trouble. Totally naive of me. I had everything that I thought I needed, but apparently some of these community guidelines, not with YouTube, it's not YouTube's fault in any way, shape or form, it's not my bank's fault, it's a certain money service that apparently their terms and conditions or their community standards or whatever it is don't allow raffles, which is fair enough, but it would have been nice for them to warn me first rather than just taking everything away from me. But there'll be something that we can sort out. There's other portals and what have you where we can get it sorted. We just won't be able to call it a raffle anymore. So hopefully you will understand when I'm rewording it in a different way, you'll understand exactly what I mean. So I'm sure most of you will. Right, so let's get on to the first review. And so what we're going to do is we're going to review the, you've probably seen this on a few other places, but we've got two of these. One of them is going on my wall for a long-term test, and the other one is going to be in the drawer at the end of the month. So we've got these that everybody's raving about, which is the Mission Darts Samurai II Dartboard. So let's get it unpackaged and let's have a look at it. Right, so in the box is the dartboard. Right, smashing. Right, they're wrapped in like a cellophane wrapper. Mine looks like it's been caught, so it's been exposed a little bit, but these things happen. Nothing to worry about too much. We've got a little bag in there to keep it all dry. First impressions. Looks pretty smart for the price, I do have to say. It does look pretty smart for the price. Yeah, the wires and everything seem alright. The spider seems good. The wiring is virtually identical to the thingy, to the wing mount. The board itself looks not far off. I'd say the whites and what have you on this are a little bit more vivid than they are on the Windmill Blade 5, but bearing in mind my Blade 5 is probably about 3 months old now, 3 or 4 months old, so not really a fantastic comparison, because obviously it's had a lot of hammer, that board, and it's stood up absolutely fantastic to it. So let's get this unwrapped and get it up on the wall, shall we, and have a chuck some darts at it. Oh, before we go and do that, hopefully over the next couple of days, it won't be too long now, I might be doing my first live stream. I've got some software, I've got myself a camera to do it with. It's not going to be the same sort of quality as this camera, I don't think, but I don't know, obviously, because it's just a bit of a toe in the water and see how it works. The other thing that I wanted to say, just before we get on with this review, is because of what's happened with circumstances over the raffle and stuff like that, I've had to change the way that I monetize the channel. The last thing I want to do is not be able to give the money that I do to charity. The last thing I want is I don't want to be able to not help dart players that are less fortunate than ourselves, which I do all the time, and I just want to try and carry on in the way that I do now, so I can produce the same amount of content, so it's just as good content hopefully. And the way that I'm going to do that is, as I just mentioned not long ago, I'm going to start doing some live chats, and obviously there's going to be some super chats on that. Need to get some revenue in that way. Obviously I'm expecting the new giveaways, because that's what they're going to be less than what it was. So, and a lot of the time, half of the time it didn't pay for itself, and sometimes there was a bit of excess. which I gave most of it away to charity. And obviously buy new darts, I've got to buy darts to give away, dartboards like these and what have you. You've got to have the revenue to actually buy those to be able to afford to give them away. Right, so that's how it's going to go. So hopefully we're going to start doing some live streams, and those live streams are going to be hopefully many and varied, all the way from live editions of a chuck and a chat to live editions of where I will play a couple of legs against people who want to donate a couple of quid, shall we say, and we'll do it that way. Obviously we'll try to monetize it. I didn't really ever want to put adverts and stuff on my channel, but at the end of the day, if it's the only way that I can do it and carry on doing what I'm doing for you, then that's the way it just has to be. Right, so let's get this dartboard up on the wall and see what it looks like. Right, so inside the cellophane wrapper we've got, it's right, quite good this, we've got baseball, dart game, general rules for darts, and then we've got it in a couple of different foreign languages from around the world, but it gives you an idea of how to play the game to get you started. Right, so that's great stuff, that, no problem at all. The other great thing about this is on the back of the box, as you can see there, it tells you how to set the dartboard up. So basically the height and the distance away. The only thing I would say with this is use that measurement there, because for the simple reason is if your floor falls away slightly like this, only very slightly, if you use a string from there to the actual 7'9" and a quarter to your hockey line, if you do that, 115.5 inches, yeah, if you do that, then if your floor drops away it'll pull you slightly closer, which means that it'll feel exactly the same. Same thing if you've got a slight rise in your floor, it'll fetch you slightly further away again, which will make it feel exactly the same as any dartboard anywhere you play it that's set up properly. Obviously in extremes that doesn't work, so basically if you're stood 2 inches further down, that isn't going to compensate for it, but most of the time your floor's going to be reasonably level, so you might be 1/4 of an inch down, 1/4 of an inch up, and that will compensate for it. Right, so let's get this board on the wall. Right, and there she goes with a little bit of force and persuasion. On she goes. Right, so dartboard's on. So let's get some blocks under it. As I've said before, these are the blocks that I use. Dead soft, rubbery doorstops. And what happens with these is they absorb some of the sound, because this is an inside wall. Right, so this is how I do it. I put one directly underneath the 3. Yeah? And what I'll do is I will then adjust it, get in the camera, I will then adjust it until the board is level. Which is there. Right, that board now is proper vertical, looking from the side. So that just means that we're getting it absolutely spot on. Half measures are not good measures. Right, so now what we do is we stand back, and these little things are great because they've got little lines on them. So when you set leveling the dartboard up, you can count the lines and make sure that each one of the chocks has got the same amount of lines sticking out, and then you know for a fact that your board is then vertical. Providing that your wall's right, of course. Needs to be in the centre there. Now that looks about spot on to me. So we get all that in nice and tight. Then what we do is we put the surround back on to hold it in place. There we go. No! Great stuff. Right, so on the surround goes. Get the surround nice and level. That looks about nice and level to me. Just hope we've not smashed the webcam. Yes, a little better organised would have been better. Right, so now we're at this stage. We've got the dartboard up, we've got the light more or less level. Just tap that over. That's level now. So now what we can do is we can feed this where it's meant to go, which is over the top of there, like that. Pull that down. It's behind the surround, as my old mum used to say, out of sight, out of mind. Right, so that is done now. That's it. There we go, let's get that. And I tell you what, for less than 30 knicker, that looks a really good board, that does, a really good board. The sisal seems good. We've got a couple of little places on it. One tiny little place here on the treble 15 where we've got what looks like where the spider's been forced into it, it's took the sisal with it. But the two tiny little areas, and like I say, for 30 quid, we're not going to argue about that at all. The rest of it, there's no visible glue on it, which there is on some of the others, like the shop dartboards. You get some visible gluey bits and stuff like that, but as I say, for less than 30 quid, you certainly can't complain. So let's get a set of arrows, let's have a couple of chucks at it, shall we? I mean, that actually gives you a better view of the board. Zoom it in a little bit. Right, so that'll give you a good idea of what the sisal's like and what have you. Right, so let's have a little bit of a chuck at it. First 3 darts. I've got to say, let me get in here, I've got to say, feels a bit soft. Feels like very plush, I think is the word we're looking for. Oh, 100. I'll take it out just to show you, in case anybody's thinks I'm cheating. Right, yeah, I've got to say, very impressed with it. Had a couple of visits there. The bull doesn't seem any different in density than the rest of the board, because some of the older boards and some of, believe it or not, the very expensive boards, they suffer with a very, very hard bull. And sometimes you can throw into the bull and it can either force your dart back out or you can get a bounce out on it. But this one seems like nice, really uniform. The actual sisal seems uniform right the way across the board. So all this is just to show you, get it up on the wall, and now starts the long-term test. So we're going to use this like we'd use a normal Blade 5, and let's see what we think about it in a couple of months' time. Right, so thanks for watching Darts Coaching with Dynamite Dave. Don't forget, lads and lasses, you'll only ever get out of this game what you're prepared to put in. And always, 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 toe to the hockey.